What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Horror Honda, where I sit in my beat-up Honda and I ramble about horror movies. And the movie we're rambling about today is the prequel to The Omen, The First Omen. And this just came out on my birthday, and I didn't know much about it. I saw a little teaser trailer of it, but nothing in specifics, nothing that had much detail. So I kind of went in blind to this. And as far as prequels go, I'm pretty happy with it, considering The Omen is a film that is impactful to me. I won't say it's one of my favorites. It's not a high rewatch, but as far as impact, I saw it at a very young age, 7, 8. Saw that in The Exorcist. Same time frame. Honestly, probably was the same day, which, good parenting? I don't know. But here we are. I talk about horror movies in my Honda now, so I guess it didn't really work out. But it's okay. So we're talking the prequel to that movie. And prequels are very hit or miss. You can either do all the right steps and answer all the right questions, or you can just give a bunch of information that doesn't matter, or just taint what the original has. The problem with bad prequels is sometimes they can affect how you view the original film. A good prequel adds elements or lore that adds a separate flavor to the original, where it's better now when you rewatch it after seeing the prequel. And this one, I think, did a solid attempt. And I'm going to try to not give any spoilers here, but I'm going to give my pros and my cons of this movie. And a pro with this, and this is a personal thing, first off, before I go any further, disclaimer about this film. And this isn't really a spoiler. If you are pregnant, I wouldn't watch it. My wife is pregnant, and I'm glad I watched this without her, because I wouldn't want to. If I had a baby in me, I wouldn't want to watch. I didn't have a baby in me, and there were scenes in this that. Just my disclaimer. You do what you want to do. I wouldn't do it. It's up to you. But my pros of this movie, and one thing I like, is just a personal thing, is I enjoy the non-Catholic Church aspect. I find that's eerie, but again, seeing The Exorcist, seeing The Omen at a young age, it just kind of ingrained in that creepy aura and atmosphere of the church and what would be the word? Traditions of it and the look of it. It's very eerie. And I think that this film really just builds a lot of tension in that, in the atmosphere, in the soundscapes, in the setting that it's in, the environment. It just all feeds together to just build up tension and dread out the gate. It's just gripping and eerie. You just feel dirty looking at it, and nothing's even happened. So for me personally, I like the nuns, I like the Catholic stuff. I will always find that creepy, and it's unfortunate that the majority of films that come out with that atmosphere are shitty possession movies that have no original take or do anything different. But here in the last month, dude, I've gotten lucky. I've got this one and Immaculate that I think add a lot to this, and I'll get into Immaculate a little further into this review. But the atmosphere, dude, was fantastic, and I even wrote notes right here. I'm fucking improving the quality. I say little production value. We're taking notes now, baby. It had some homages to the original that I would recommend if you do watch this. If you haven't seen the original, it can stand on its own. You'll get the same film out of it. But there's certain things that you'll miss, certain characters, certain elements that when you rewatch the original, when you watch the original for the first time, if you don't know the story or the twist or how all that goes, that doesn't need to get taken away from you. Watch that first, and then I'd watch the prequel. You can watch it on its own, but in my recommendation, I'd say start with the original, then watch this, because now I already knew what I was going to see going in, but it didn't take away. But maybe watching the prequel, then that would be a cool story. I don't know. I just, the aura and the confusion around the original and how it's kind of ambiguous, I loved. So seeing that on the first watch, I think is something that I wouldn't want to see get taken away, seeing the prequel first. But that's just me. But it paid a lot of good homages to that. And, I thought I had more positives in this. It does a good aspect of being, like I was talking about, setting and the environment. It does good being in the time frame. It's in the early 70s. It fits that. The community fits that. The world politics, world views all fit that. And it's kind of cool how they tie in where you can see the same things they were going through in the early 70s that we think we're the only generation now going through this stuff. It just shows you that throughout history, every generation goes through the exact same problems. It might just manifest itself differently. But all in all, the younger generation is destroying everything, and the older generation just doesn't understand us, and blah, blah, blah. I'm obviously speaking in broad strokes. But that is kind of a parallel they have in this that I really enjoyed. And my final, I guess, positive is I did like the motive of why they were in the situation that they're in at the end. I liked where you get that motive answered, when you find out exactly what their purpose is and what their intent is. It made you feel like you needed to take a damn shower. It was just dirty. It was, you're like, no. And it does the same thing that the first one does, or the original rather. Good God, that guy said, fuck those speed bumps. Jesus. You have to question a lot of, what decision would I make? What would I do? And it's kind of, it wasn't super hidden surprise. When you see it, you go, oh my fucking God. Like, you start kind of putting the pieces together as it goes on. But once it's set in stone, the motive is really gnarly. And some mixed things I have. This could have been just a me problem, but my viewing, again, it could have just been my screening of it. It was really dark. Like, a lot of scenes were kind of hard to see. It was, I don't know if that was for everybody, but there were times where it was in the darkness or the shadows where I couldn't see a fucking thing. I had no idea what was going on. There'd be a couple candles, and I'm squinting at the screen trying to guess, going off sound. So that could have just been a me screening. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if yours was super dark, but mine had moments where it was just, it was just a black screen damn near, it looked like. The pacing. It had times where the tension was building, and that slow, dreary build or sitting on a scene was just like suffocating, whereas other times it was just yawning inducing. You're just sitting there going, let's go, to droning on, let's go. When it's got the tension and you're kind of getting into the meat and potatoes, or it's early on in the movie and you're trying to get the vibe, the tension works. But throughout the middle of the movie, just a lot of times it gets stagnant, where it was just sitting there and it kind of just rolls on, and you're just waiting for the next thing. And the atmosphere's creepy, but you hit a point where kind of need the ball to roll a little more. That's a mixed. Like I said, I liked it at times. I didn't like it at other times. And I wouldn't even say this one is a mixed. It's just an observation, I guess. It had a lot of similarities to Immaculate. I didn't spoil that one. I'm not gonna spoil this one. But if you didn't like, it's tough to say. Immaculate had a big reason why you might not like it. Just if that whole vibe of that movie didn't work for you, I doubt this one will. It points eerily similar. Like, they're pretty close. They have their differences and their distinctions, but all in all, very similar. And I say mixed because if you didn't like that movie, I don't think you'll like this one. If you didn't like that movie as a whole, if you didn't like the ending, gotcha. But if you didn't like the movie as a whole, probably not for you. But again, I like the non-Catholic creepy aesthetic. It's always, it was bred in me as a child, essentially, so I have no choice but to find that scary. That's some psychology shit. So I enjoyed it. I got two. I mean, you get one movie that fits that genre like every fucking 6 years, maybe. You get a decent one. And I got two in a month that I was happy with. So, something to keep in mind if you didn't like Immaculate. And as far as negatives, there wasn't anything too negative. I referenced that that there were homages, which was cool. But I think the way they were done, it just didn't hit the same as the original hit for me. Whereas the remake did absolutely nothing different. It was beat for beat the same movie. This one had its own twists and turns, and when it paid homage, though, it paid it very similar and just tried to tweak or vamp it, and it just didn't seem right. I would have much rather them went a different route, like similar, be inspired to have this moment, that moment, but don't try and do the same thing and just add another little element to it, if that makes sense. I wish they wouldn't have done it at all, or they would have flipped it on its head and done something completely different, in the spirit of, but different. When you do it with the same exact thing, but just add a little bit of spice to it to modernize it, I feel like if it's your first time seeing this, if you haven't seen the original, it's probably going to be effective. Like it was for me when I was 7, when I saw the original. And It's All For You, very effective for me as a kid. And I feel like if you were a kid and saw this one, and I wouldn't watch this if I were a kid. If you saw That's All For You in the modern one, I'm sure it would have the same effect on you as it did to me when I was a kid. And 30 years removed from the original. 20 years. I'm bad at math. But when you've seen the original and you see them paint the same strokes, it was just kind of disheartening. I was hoping they would do something else with it. It had no bearing, no effect on me. But all in all, this movie is, again, graphic. If you're pregnant, definitely wouldn't watch it. It's got some pregnancy scenes in here that I wouldn't recommend you watch, but that's up to you. That's your call. And a lot of people that aren't pregnant, I might not recommend this. They had to have fought tooth and nail to get an R rating for this. That's all I can say. That I don't know how they got an R rating for this. There were times where, because you'd think, like, you see stuff in horror and gore, and then you think, oh, there's the implied stuff, and every now and then, like, one pushes the envelope, and this one didn't just push the envelope. This one ripped the envelope fucking open, and that was a lot funnier unintended joke that I just made. This one pushed the fucking envelope. I don't know how it got an R rating. Pretty fucking aggressive. So I will give it that. It pushed boundaries. That was aggressive. Not for everybody. But all in all, I had a good time with it. As far as rewatchability, I don't know. I'll be honest. My wife was out of town the last 4 days, and I've been watching my daughter. And she was good the first 2 days, and yesterday and today she has destroyed me. She's just beat me down. So I'm pretty wore down. And that probably had some effect maybe on my viewing. Maybe when scenes were getting slower, I'm just tired and defeated and just give me a beer. But I would like to rewatch it at some point down the road. I'm sure I will. And I want to rewatch it and then watch the original and kind of see how they flow. Because in my head right now, I think the story flows well. I think it answers what you need, moves you forward. It doesn't take away from the original, and you're good to go. So I think it's going to get a rewatch. I think it deserves a rewatch. But all in all, I think it was a solid film, solid watch. I'd recommend it. If you liked The Omen, I'd recommend watching it. If you weren't a fan of of that or the remake or Immaculate, I wouldn't give it a shot. And if you're just not a fan of like nun church stuff, I think this one, give it a fair shake. I think you get around to it. It's gonna have a couple of the same little tropes and stuff, but it's not anything like typical possession church crosses spinning over stuff. This has an atmosphere that's eerie and just a different plot-driven story that's not all jump scares and stuff. So I would recommend it. At least, give it a try. See what you think. But that's my review, guys. Let me know down below what you think. Did you like it? Did you hate it? If you're going to spoil it for people, which I wouldn't recommend, or I wouldn't hope you do, just put it in there. It's a spoiler, so people don't tank their movie for them. But do all the stuff all the other YouTubers say to do, like and subscribe and all that, blah, 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 blah. You guys are the best. Peace.